Stamping friends, it's Sherry Parker coming to you live on Wednesday, July 9th. Happy July. Hope you had a great 4th of July weekend with friends and family, and maybe even a couple days off from work as well. So I'm super happy to come to you tonight. The Let's Eradicate Loneliness One Card at a Time challenge is going great. I think we're up to about 90 people who have signed up. There's about 57 or 58 in our Facebook group. So that's been really exciting. I love to see people joining in, sending cards just to help eradicate loneliness. And really thank you if you're participating in that. And there's no accountability. It's just something you're doing to spread kindness and love, and that's it. So thank you for participating. I do appreciate you. And I wanted to mention that it's not too late. Of course, it's July 9th. There's still 22 days left in the month. So you can certainly send 15 cards out this month and just help spread the love. Secondly, I wanted to mention that there is a special sale going on right now. It's 20% off our two-tone cardstock, 12 by 12 cardstock. So if you like to stock up, it's a great way to build up your inventory of paper. Hey, Marianne, thank you for joining. So wanted to mention that that's going on through Friday. So it's a 3-day sale. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera over. I feel like I'm forgetting to say something, but I'm sure I'll think of it. So again, that's my little Let's Eradicate Loneliness. Love it. I love that people are participating. Hey, Karen, thank you for joining. All right, tonight we're gonna use scraps. So I call it Let's Get Scrappy. So I don't know if you're anything like me, but I get packs of paper and I love it, I use it, but then I'm left with a bunch of scraps and I keep it, of course, but I wanted to make some cards using scraps of designer series paper and show you how really cool you can come up with some great ideas. This pack of paper is the Florals in Bloom designer series paper. I've been using this a lot. It's in our new catalog. There's a suite featured in our new catalog here. And so this 12 by 12 designer series paper is part of that. And of course there's stamps and die cuts and all kinds of other really fun things that coordinate with it. So tonight we're going to focus on the paper, and we're actually going to just use one sheet, and it's the scraps from this one sheet of paper. And we're going to make 2 really cute cards. And I think you're going to really like them. So I've got a very basic card here. Again, scraps. And then the second card is stepped up a little bit. But you can see these strips here. Sometimes we're left with these really thin strips of paper, and you really don't want to throw them away. So this is a fun way to use those up and to create a really cool focal point to a card. So we'll get started with this card. Hi, Ruth, right now. Very simple in terms of supplies. You're going to need a half sheet of cardstock for your base. I'm using white here. So I'll just score it in the middle, and I'll fold it in half there. And then I have 3 scraps of designer series paper. And these measure, they're just 3 by 3/4 inch. And of course, any size would work. That just happens to be what I have here, and I just trimmed them down. And I'm going to create a very simple basic card just using those the way I have them. So I'm going to go ahead and put some Stampin' Dimensionals behind each of these. Yes, Marian, I know this is great paper. I hope you've used yours as much as I've been using mine. It is good paper. All right, so first scrap, I've got Stampin' Dimensionals on all 3 pieces. And I'm just going to eyeball this. This is not a precise endeavor. I'm just putting 1 strip there, and then I'm going to put another one at the bottom here and peel off the backs, and then I'll fill in, and I'll show you what I mean. So this last one, it'll be positioned here, but in the meantime, before I put that down, I'm going to go ahead and stamp. And I've selected the Tags of Thanks greetings. These are some really nice new greetings that we're carrying. I love the script and also just the sans serif font as well. So it's really a nice combination. Oops, I inked up the wrong one. You made my whole day, and I'm using Petunia Pop ink. And I'm gonna stamp it right there. I got a little smudge on there, so I've got some other little pieces here. I'm gonna go ahead and swap that out because I'm notorious for doing that, getting ink either on my fingers or on things I don't want. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of center this, you know, somewhere in between. So again, not really precise. It's not an exact science, and that's okay. You might have seen this punch here. It's the bow punch, and it's actually on the last chance list. It has 2 sprigs. I have used this a ton through the years. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get rid of it or not because it is on the last chance list. But I went ahead and from some of my scraps of the cardstock, I just punched a bunch of the different sprigs here. And then again, no rhyme or reason. All I'm gonna do is put a little dab of glue. And then I've got a cloud cover sprig. I've got a fresh freesia sprig. And then I just have a little basic white one right here. So I'm gonna just stick them there on the glue. And then I'll top it off with a bow made out of cloud cover ribbon. This new ribbon is so pretty. I will use a glue dot. You could also use your glue if you wanted. This is gonna probably take a second to dry because the glue behind it. So there is the card. It's done. How quick was that? And again, you can use your scraps of paper. This card inspiration came from, we had our Creativity Now. Hi, Sheila. Thanks for joining. And this is my inspiration. So this is a new suite that's coming in the fall for the holidays. And we made this card here, and that was my inspiration for tonight's first card. Super simple. Hi, Felicia. Thanks for joining. Oh, you know what? One thing I did forget. I get sidetracked. I did want to add a couple of embellishments, and these are the iridescent embellishments in our new in colors. So based on where your paper lands, you can put a couple of them in here. I'll probably stick a few in like that. Hi, Lisa. Thank you. So you can put them anywhere you want, but see how everything coordinates. So we've got cloud cover, we have cardstock, designer series paper, and ribbon, and embellishments, and then fresh freesia is one of the colors in the designer series paper, and also in one of our sprigs. So card number 1, complete. Okay, our second card, and this is one I think you'll really, really love. So it looks like this, and we're using the same sheet of designer series paper, and we're using it in a slightly different way, and it's a little bit of a fun fold. You can see how it opens up like that. And the supplies for this card, again, you'll need a half sheet of cardstock. I selected fresh freesia. I've got a 1/4 sheet of cloud cover and a 1/4 sheet of white. And I will show you what we're gonna do with those here in just a second. But the first thing we're gonna need to do, I'm gonna set this over here to dry, keep knocking it, is we are going to score our card. So you will want to use whatever you have to score. I've got my paper trimmer with me tonight, and I'm gonna score halfway on the long side, so 4 1/4, and then 2 1/8. So if you think of it, it's half of an 8 1/2 by 11, and then half of 4 1/4. So 2 1/8. And that's basically creating your fun fold. So the way this works is you just fold it in half, and then you'll fold that piece out. And I did a little something extra. I embossed this one panel here. And how you do that is you take your embossing folder. This is the Eyelet 3D embossing folder. And you place your cardstock in there. If I can open it. And I'm simply just putting it on the panel that I want. And then I'm gonna run it through my embossing die cut machine. It's really shaky, so here we go. There is our embossed piece. So it gives it a nice texture, and it's also just on the one panel, which I think adds interest. For the inside, I've got a 1/4 sheet of cloud cover, which I think pairs nicely with the fresh freesia and really accentuates that designer series paper. So we'll just place that in the middle like that. And that's basically the card base. So now we're going to shift gears and make this really cool focal point. I'm using the Everyday Arches dies. And for this card, I'm using thin scraps of the same sheet of designer series paper. Okay, it's just the reverse side. And these are 1/2 inch in width. So I had a lot of scraps of this particular sheet. I can't remember exactly what I was making, but I thought, you know, I gotta find a way to use those scraps. So I've got a bunch of scraps and I have a piece of, I'm just using basic white, and I'm gonna cover this in adhesive, and then we're basically just gonna cover it with our scraps. You don't have to do it in a diagonal pattern like I've done here. You could certainly do, you know, random, you could do horizontal, vertical, whatever you like. I like the diagonal just because I think it's a really cool way to add some interest. And I'm gonna start and put this piece on the diagonal like that. So all I'm doing is just alternating pieces, and then I'm gonna cut it out so you can see how you build this. And don't worry about it being perfect because you're gonna be die cutting, okay? So I've covered this whole thing. I went and did one in advance so you didn't have to sit here and watch. But basically just covered this with strips of paper. And then I'm gonna take one of the Everyday Arches dies and just cut out the shape. And then we'll have extra here, but I'll run this through my die cut machine over here. And then what happens after you do that, it looks like that, pop it out. So there is a little bit of waste, but then you've got this really fun, cool shape. And I mean, that in and of itself is a really cool focal point of a card. So that's really what I wanted to feature tonight, is just, you know, I'm using scraps. That's really all I'm doing. And that's gonna be the main part of my card. So I will adhere this to the front of my fun fold. And remember, when you're doing a fun fold, you don't want to have adhesive on the whole thing or you'll tape your card shut. So there you go. And then all I'm really doing is just stamping a greeting, and I'm adding some more of those fun little sprigs that I used on the first card. And then we'll be done. I love the perennial postage dies, so I did cut out a rectangle using that. And from the same Tags of Thanks stamp set, I picked out the greeting that says, "So lucky to know you." And I'm stamping it with cloud cover ink. And with this one, you know, you can buy the small ink pad. You can't buy the big one because of the color situation that we had when this was launched. And message me if you want more details on that. But you can still achieve the cloud cover ink for your stamping. So that is the greeting there. I will add a couple of dimensionals to that and pop this out. And I think it's very simple. You know, I really didn't add a lot of bells and whistles because I really think the design is a lot in and of itself. I'm gonna do what I did before and put a little dab of glue, and then I'm gonna tuck some of these sprigs behind there, and they'll just kind of peek out. And then we'll cover it with a bow. Whoops. There he is. And then last, I've got another cloud cover bow, and adhere that to the front of my card. Isn't that so easy and fun? I really like to do that. And again, a great way to use up your scraps. You could literally just cover up a sheet of cardstock and cut out all kinds of shapes with your die cuts. How cool would that be? Not just the arches, but really any shape that you had. So those are our 2 cards tonight using the Florals in Bloom Designer Series paper with cloud cover and fresh freesia. Hi, Donna. Yes, I know, right? Buy more paper. We all like to buy our paper, don't we? So that is really, those are the 2 cards tonight. And next week I will be drawing for these. Again, when you comment on or share, your name is automatically entered in to draw the projects that I make every week. And again, you know, if you want to check out that sale, you can go to my website at sherrythomas.stampinup.net and find out more details on that. Okay, last but not least, if you remember last week, we made this fun card, and I love this hydrangea. We used the blending brushes and the masks to create this. So I'm gonna draw our winner for last week's project. So I've got all the names in here, and I got a name, and it is Cheryl Bren. Cheryl, I will send you this card, and thank you for watching and commenting on and sharing. I always appreciate that, and I'm going to turn my camera over, and thanks again for joining. I did want to mention that my schedule is going to be a little bit off in the next several weeks. We are traveling to Europe coming up here, so I will be coming live next Tuesday night versus Wednesday. And then when I return, and I've pinned the schedule just because it is a little bit off. Sorry about that. And then I am having foot surgery August 5th. So I'm not going to be able to come down to my stamping room. I've got a few guest presenters lined up, so I think they'll be a lot of fun. And you'll learn some really cool techniques from them. So more to come on that. Thank you again for watching tonight, and share your samples. If you have used scraps in a creative way, share them, post them. I would love to see what you've done with it. So thank you again, and have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye.